want to hear about these motherfuckers. It's time to go. All I want to do is fucking eat.
We're not practicing to beat somebody. We're practicing to beat everybody.
Nowhere to run and nowhere to hide for 4 quarters. They got to see us in our house for 4 quarters. They got to look us in the eye for 4. This is about us and our family and our house. This is about us. This is our mentality. We ain't backing down. We ain't running. Set a tone, send a message. This is our house. Physical toughness wins in football now. And if you in this room, you got it. And if you come in here, you better believe in it. Because this physical toughness, it's what makes the difference. Elite focus. That's all I'm doing. The guy across from me, I'm fixing to whip his ass. Not in my box, not today. It's about us. It's about our family. We attack. You take that helmet and you strike them. And you strike them and you strike them. That's how you get respect.
Now I am gonna pick shit out of them. Physically, I want to break them.
Welcome back in, friends, to another edition of How About That Dawgs Cast. I tell you what, this week is Thanksgiving week, and I am feeling particularly thankful. There are a lot of reasons. This week we've hit some benchmarks here at the podcast and on YouTube, and I'm particularly thankful for all of you who support this channel, support our work, who show up every week for these live streams, who diligently dial in the podcast and have a conversation with me about what is quite possibly my favorite topic ever, the Georgia Bulldogs. If you guys weren't here, well, I would just be here talking to myself. And what fun would that be? It's always better when you guys are here with me. So I'm feeling thankful this week. I'm feeling thankful for a lot of reasons, several of which we're going to get to here in this conversation tonight. One of the things I'm thankful for is, as I mentioned, you guys being here with me and supporting the work that we're doing. Because believe me when I tell you, it could not happen without the support that I receive from you guys in a myriad of ways, whether it's just words of encouragement, or if you happen to support the channel by becoming a member, or if you choose to just share our content out across the social media pages, it all helps. And I'm very, very thankful that you're here with me. At this point in the season, the Dogs are 11-0. 11-0. Have you said it out loud? You should. You should take a second and just say, them Dogs are 11-0. Staring at the traditional rival Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets this week with a strong possibility of getting to 12-0. I'm thankful for this season. I'm thankful for the record. I'm thankful for the ride, the journey of what this season has been. I mean, I'm just going to be completely honest with you guys because, listen, when you decide to do something like this, when you decide to put your face out front and show up every week and have an opinion and hopefully, you know, you come at it with all the good things. You want to have people, you want to help people have fun. You want to help people enjoy the game. You want to enjoy the games more. There are a lot of sweet spots about it. But when you choose to do this, anybody that tells you they know what is going to happen is they're just not shooting you straight. And anybody tells you that somewhere along the way you don't feel, you know, that nip of imposter syndrome, or regardless of your background, regardless of your credentials, you're still going to feel it because we're human, right? And I'm just going to be honest. I have learned so much, not only about myself, but about Dog Nation over the last 9 months. I feel like I'm a better journalist. I feel like I'm a better fan. I feel like I am a much better content producer. I feel like I'm a better Georgia Bulldog fan, right? Everything about it, there's so much that I've learned, and I'm thankful for that journey. The team certainly helped with the way they've played this year. I was spending some time today scrolling back through the post-game press conferences from like UAB and South Carolina, the preparatory press conference for Auburn, the Vanderbilt presser, Florida, just sort of smelling the roses. And I think about the kind of content I was producing, the things that I have been on record as saying about what this team was, why it looked the way it looked, where I thought they were going, and hearing Coach Smart stand behind the microphone and tell not just me, tell us all what he thought he had. When I go back and listen to that now, you understand clearly what makes Coach Smart and this program the standard in college football today. In the moment, we're all prisoners of recency bias, right? We just saw the game, or we're about to see the game, or whatever it is, and all we know is what we've seen. Everything else is expectation. It's like I talked about earlier in the year, right? The island of knowledge and the shoreline of ignorance. We can't help ourselves. There's nothing wrong with that. And when I go back and listen to what Coach Smart was saying, he was telling us the entire time, we have real issues at, depth at running back. Do you guys even remember that Marcus Rosemy-Jack-Saint missed some time? Javon Bullard, countless offensive linemen, of course the running backs, defensive linemen, defensive ends, edge rushers, outside linebacker. You remember how thin we were? It's easy to forget because of the kind of job that Kirby and his staff have done. And the whole time he's telling us, this is a concern, this is a thing, but you know what? We're going to put our head down and work. He told us earlier in the year around South Carolina, he told us, I learned more about my team today than I have learned at any point up till now. And everybody made such a big deal about that halftime speech. What did you do to turn it around? And he lauded their halftime adjustments. He's like, I don't know why we're not good in the first half, but I know we're good in the second half, and it's because of this. And he told us. Maybe it's the freedom that he has earned after winning back-to-back national championships that Kirby just feels like he can step right up there and just tell us the truth. I think both me as a member of the media and as a fan, and from what I read around, what other fans assume is that when coaches come out, 98% of what they say, you can just ignore. They chalk it up to coach speak, or they chalk it up to he's just saying this to throw off another coach, or pick a thing. I just think, of course, there's some of that. You cannot escape the cliches and things like that. But on the whole, if you're watching Kirby's pressers, he's literally telling you, he's giving you the heartbeat of the team every time he stands up there. He has said it over and over and over. I will tell you anything you want to know. You just have to be good enough at your job to ask. Now, you can have your opinion about whether or not the media in the room are doing a good job and asking the right questions. But I'm pretty confident. And again, maybe it's the freedom he's earned. But I'm confident that when Kirby speaks, he's just telling it like it is. He's flat out telling us what he thinks of his football team and of his opponent and where we are in the season. And to hear what he said earlier in the year and now listen to him talk about Tennessee, Georgia Tech, and what lies ahead, I'm just thankful. I'm thankful for that kind of coach. I'm thankful for a coach who respects his fan base enough to tell us the truth. And I believe him when he says that what we don't know is only limited by what he has asked. So, if you're friends with people that are in the room, Georgia media, that are in that ecosystem, and you have an issue or you want to know something, hit them up, let them know, tell them to ask that question. Why aren't we asking this question? Can't hurt. So I'm thankful. I'm thankful for a lot of reasons. And I'm sure this is going to be a little bit of a rambling episode, I think. I do have a point, though. I mean, we'll get there. But I truly am just feeling, I mean, we've talked about it over and over and over. And if you're a true dog fan, I mean, just go ahead and admit that you've done it too. Like, how many times over the course of the last 3 seasons have you just been like, A, pinching yourself to make sure it's real, and B, just thinking, these days, it's so good right now. Like, what this team is doing right now is so far beyond what a reasonable expectation is. It's almost laughable. I mean, think back to early in the season when I was talking about, I was using the video gaming angle to sort of drive home the point that things happen on a football field, teams have to grow, develop, mature, all of those things. That it's not just an Xbox game, right? Things don't just happen. And I used that as a bit of a hammer earlier this year. And I'll be doggone if this team has not performed in spite of all of those things at such a level that makes you question whether or not it's like they're playing a video game. It boggles the mind. Seriously. If you allow yourself to think about it, it boggles the mind. A little over a month ago, I asked you to sort of allow yourself to wander into the future. When we were looking at the stretch of Florida, Missouri, Ole Miss, and Tennessee, the stretch that everyone said would be Georgia's undoing. Everyone other than me. I mean, there are others who may have also felt the way I felt. But from where I was sitting, it certainly felt like everybody in the national media, they were just waiting for Georgia to trip up. Before we went through that run, I said, allow yourself to wander into the future and think about what it's going to be like the Sunday morning when you wake up, wherever you are, and Georgia has just beaten Tennessee, hammered Tennessee for the 3rd straight time in Knoxville. In the last 4 trips to Knoxville, by the way, just a little fun point here. Kirby Smart's Georgia Bulldogs have defeated the Tennessee Volunteers 163-41. Blowouts across the board. Performances like that are making it hard for older dogs like myself to hold on to the angst that we have clung to for so many years. They're making it really easy for me to step up and go, no, that's a good football team. I believe in my football team, and they are about to put one on you. That is where I am trending. It's kind of liberating, actually. But at the same time, football's football, stuff happens. So that's what makes the game fun, though. But I said, imagine what it's going to be like waking up on that Sunday morning. We have now passed that Sunday morning. These Bulldogs not only remain undefeated at 11-0, they bludgeoned these teams along the way, seemingly improving every week, sharpening their edge. You know what I loved? One of the things I loved about what happened on Rocky Top this past Saturday. Recently, I had talked about how, and in retrospect, I feel pretty good about it, how I believed that Georgia's that team that once they get cut, once they taste their own blood a little bit, they really sort of, you get their attention and then they let you know who the boss is. One of the things we saw on Rocky Top was, of course, the first play touchdown. And then the Dogs just calmly ripped off a 38-3 stretch. 38-3. Just swatted Tennessee to the side. And along the way, apparently at least one of the Volunteers got their feelings hurt about it and decided that they wanted to tug on Superman's cape at the bottom of the pile. And old 19, Mr. Bowers, came up ready to let him know what the deal was. And his buddies were there with him. If you didn't already know that 19 takes it serious, if he is playing to win, seeing that public demonstration of fire right there in that end zone, I don't know, made me laugh a little bit. First, we've never seen it. So, of course, you're going to be like, what's Brock doing? But then you're like, no, that's my guy. Of course he's doing that, right? I don't know, it just made me feel really good. Made me feel really good. And I have to say this too, because it also made me just personally feel really good that since I started using that phrase on the podcast, you know, taste their own blood, take a shot, that sort of stuff, I've heard other people around the ecosystem start to talk about the Dogs that way. Maybe they're fans. I don't know. That'd be awesome if they are. Be fantastic. I hope you enjoyed that Sunday morning because the Dogs did what many thought was improbable. Dare I say impossible. They just couldn't be as good as they've been. They could not go Florida, Missouri, top 10 team. Now, Ole Miss, top 10 team. Then, Tennessee, still ranked by the CFP. No way they could get through that undefeated. And yet here we are. So yeah, I've got a lot to be thankful for this week, both in my personal life and with my Georgia Bulldogs, the number one team in the country. With all signs still pointed upward. I actually had this conversation with somebody last week. Is it possible to be number one with a bullet if you're already and have been number one? With this group, I think it is possible. I think it's absolutely possible. So I am just as excited today to see what they're going to do the rest of the way as I was before we kicked the season off or before we got into SEC play. Very, very much looking forward to what this team is going to show us next. On the thumbnail this week, in the title, I put Georgia football is a team that wants to make the other team quit. Now, if you're a Bulldog fan, you know that's not new. We've heard that before. But that's the great thing about each season, each team, right? It's its own thing. Some teams, maybe they grab hold of that really early. Other teams, like this one, maybe it takes you half the season to have all of your complement of weapons there or understand what it takes to play that level of football, understand that standard. That's fine. Kirby knew the whole time. He was working on it and telling us and the team the whole time, every week, every post-game press conference. He was letting us know. The identity of this Georgia football team, I mean, I think we've touched on it here on this podcast. I think we've touched on it over the last month. Various sort of points that make up the identity of this football team. As I mentioned before, I was spinning back through some of the stuff from earlier in the year because I knew that I had heard them talk about it. So I'm certain this is not all of the mentions, but I did find a couple. So if you don't believe me, if you don't think that this team is one that literally wants to break you and break your will and dominate on the football field, well, you're just not paying attention.
My expectation is we go out and dominate and create a nightmare and make people never want to play you again.
We just want to be a physical, tough team that goes in there every game and tries to make the other team quit.
A nightmare. Dominate. Make the other team never want to play you again. Make the other team quit. This is not a pregame fiery speech. The pregame fiery speeches that we've heard, the ones that you hear on this show every week, those things, that's simply in the moment. They just bubble up. They just come out when you hear those phrases. Why does that happen? Because just like the DNA traits that they talk about so much around this program, this is the message that is drilled into this team every day. Be dominant. Leave no doubt. When you have players as talented as the University of Georgia has, and then you get buy-in from those players so that they believe what the coaching staff is telling them, and the coaching staff that is in their ear all the time is quite literally the best in the game. You put those things together. You light the match and you turn them loose. Set them free. And what you get is the Georgia Bulldog team that we're seeing right now. And the thing is, going back to that number one with a bullet thing, how many times have we seen this team this season at full strength? A half of a game where they had virtually all of their pieces together? One full half? Not even a full game. And they stand at the top of the mountain 11-0. Knowing what we know, I think it's absolutely safe to assume that there is still room to grow and higher heights to reach. That, my friends, is an exciting proposition. Now, there's a lot that I want to touch on here. So let's just go ahead and start to take a look. As Georgia has made their way to 11-0 this season, of course, they've had the winning streak that's gone on over the course of a couple of 3 years here. Georgia football has now won 28 straight games overall. 24 of those 28 games have been decided by double digits. Not only is the first number insane, that second number speaks to the dominance, the effort, the strain that this team puts on every moment, every play of every opportunity to go out and show who they are. It almost sounds ridiculous, but the strain that this coaching staff and these players put on themselves daily, weekly, has put them in such a position, and you have heard the players say this, and most of us just sort of brush it off. Hyperbole, or of course that's what they're going to say, or whatever. But the fact of the matter is, Saturdays are truly a release. It's just fun because they know that they have worked so hard and that nothing across the field from them is going to match what they have spent the last 7 days doing. So yeah, the standard at Georgia is different, and it shows. The results speak for themselves. What was it Kirby said? Did you catch the university's sports media video, the victory highlights? They put one out every week. This week was really special. It was really good. From somebody that has been doing this for 25 years, working primarily in video, I'm giving it a double thumbs up. Quality effort by the team this week. Did you catch it? That's the first question. If you did, of course, you had to watch it more than once. And undoubtedly, if you watched it more than once, you heard, it was quick, but you heard, I'm not certain it was Kirby, but one of the coaches, very well could have been Kirby. You heard that coach say, "Ain't nobody safe over there." So that stuff about it's not just a fiery pregame speech, it's absolutely what they believe. Listen, I'm all about in the moment bravado, but you don't just pull that out of thin air, right? I mean, think back to last season. Tennessee comes into Athens. Georgia was at home. The phrase was, lock the gates. It's too late now. On the road, keeping in mind that hunter mentality, the phrase was, ain't nobody safe over there. That's my team. That's my coach. Makes you wonder if they're ever going to lose again. That level of skill, that level of damn right attitude, these days are special, Bulldog friends. Let's check out another fun number right here. These Georgia Bulldogs have now won 14 consecutive road games. I did a quick look. The last road game, by my quick look, that they lost was when they went on the road to Alabama in 2020. Stetson didn't play well. They were, the quarterback situation was what it was, and they were figuring it out. That was the last road game that they lost. Inside the SEC. I mean, the numbers simply boggle the mind. Here's another one. The Dogs have won 11 straight games against ranked opponents. People can say whatever they want to say about who Georgia plays, but it doesn't matter. Nobody outside of Bulldog Nation is going to believe that. The fact is, it doesn't matter. Everything I've been talking about up to this point speaks directly to what I'm about to say, which is simply to echo and maybe put a little color on what the coaches and the players say. They are looking at a nameless and a faceless opponent every week when they step between the lines. It doesn't matter who it is that they're taking on. They just want to be the best version of themselves they can be. They're not trying to be perfect, but they are in constant pursuit of excellence. And the way they do anything is the way they do everything. So it doesn't matter who the opponent is. They are trying to play the very best game they can play every week. They may not be trying for perfection, but when you attack the process day after day the way they do, sometimes perfection is the result because it's rooted in excellence. The Georgia Bulldogs are now 1 of 1. With their victory over Tennessee on Rocky Top this last Saturday, Georgia has become the only team in Southeastern Conference history to go 8-0 in conference play over 3 consecutive seasons. Talk about a number that doesn't seem real. This is the SEC, the dominant college football conference for the last 2 decades. This group of Georgia Bulldogs has gone undefeated in 3 consecutive years inside regular season play in the conference. No other team has ever done that. And the little powdered sugar sprinkle on top is that the last team to do it before the conference split into divisions was the 1980 to 82 Georgia Bulldogs under Vince Dooley. That just wasn't an 8-game season. So not only were the Dogs the last to do it, they are the first and only team to do it in the modern era of Southeastern Conference football. That's a staggering number. Because the ball is shaped funny. It takes weird bounces. Stuff happens. People get sick. You have an off day. But it's the players, their investment, the coaches, their meticulous preparation. It is the program all the way down to the dietitians that allow this team to perform at the level they perform. Truly impressive and incredible. As we move forward There's still so much to be determined, so much at stake for this team. But again, they just bludgeoned their way through what everyone considered to be the meat of their schedule. And it left the national media, well, it made them take notice. Joel Klatt, the cavalcade of heads talking to you on ESPN, including Paul Feinbaum, who said they are just mauling teams right now. I'm not going to disagree. He's not wrong. And I can't overstate how impressive it is. I mean, I like to talk. I probably talk way too much. That's how you end up with a podcast. But I run out of words to describe it. Like, you can only say it so many different ways. Sometimes you just have to shut up and appreciate it, which is what I find myself doing. When something is beautiful enough, you don't need to say anything. And this team is beautiful to watch. And I can't wait to see where they go from here. Now, Georgia's doing everything that they can do based on what they can control. I was on the post-game reaction show, overreaction show, with our good friends over at UGAsports.com this last week. Roddy Nabolsi. And I made a statement that I feel silly because I feel like I'm saying the same thing over and over and over. But just, you have to pause and list off these numbers, because otherwise they just fly past, right? We're on to the next game. We're on to the next game. That's the way the season is. It doesn't let up for anyone. It's relentless. And trust me, when you're creating content around it, it's like trying to drink from a fire hose. But you need to slow down and just think about where this team is, what they're doing. I mean, at some point, all these streaks are going to end. Georgia will lose a game. I don't know which one it is. And at this point, you almost sound silly. Like, you almost sound foolish if you're going to pick against Georgia. Because you have to fully acknowledge, yes, they can lose, but time after time after time, you've seen them fight with the heart of a champion and not lose. And it's not that they're simply not losing. They're making the plays to go and win. I mean, how many times am I going to dare them to prove me wrong, right? How many times am I going to let my own little inner voice of doubt creep in and say, I don't know how it looks right now. I don't know if they can do it. And then they just step right up there and do it. Again, the game doesn't come to them. They go take the game. So I don't know when that loss is coming. You know it will. Maybe. But, like, it's improbable at this point. It's hard to see. But everybody's taking notice. But that's nothing new. The players know it. The coaches know it. Everybody knows it. And yet, the players, according to Michael Williams, honestly, are looking forward to it. They get excited about it. That's what a champion looks like. So let's look at the things that are outside of the Dogs' control. They control how they play, but they can't control how other people are going to perceive them. They can try. They can hammer their opponents into submission the way they have over the last month and demand that you address the kings of college football in the appropriate manner. Leave no doubt. Isn't that what Coach says? That's what they've done. And the college football playoff has acknowledged as much. This week's rankings have the Dogs in at 1. No surprise. They were 1 last week. And everything behind that number is going to play, right? They're going to play each other. It's going to play itself out, however you want to say it. But even with that, there's some, okay, the people who hear what I'm about to say, and if they want to clip this out, they certainly can and use it against me. But you're here in real time. You know what I'm about to tell you. Georgia has been number 1 all season in the AP. That's another streak, by the way. Georgia has now been at number 1 in the CFP for the last couple of weeks. They are undefeated. They are eviscerating opponents right now. I expect that they're going to go put one on the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets this Saturday and finish the season 12-0. That team rolls into Atlanta. I expect that they are going to beat Alabama. I don't expect it to be particularly close. I think the current number is like Dogs favored by 4. I think they would cover that number. But if Georgia loses that game, for whatever reason, that might be the one that L pops up, right? If that happened, the initial response, because we don't know how everything else is going to go around the country, but the initial response is, well, if Georgia loses, they're out. Okay. Maybe you're assuming chalk across the rest of the country. But even if that happens, and you've watched college football all season, and you see what this team is and has been over the last month, and you understand that they have all of their pieces, essentially, if they lose to a top 10 CFP team, why is it an automatic that they're out? Just on a baseline, common sense level. Here's a little bit more ammunition for that, because the CFP may have sort of tipped their cap on what they think of Georgia. Boo Corrigan is quoted as saying, "As we talked about it in the room, Tennessee scores on their first offensive play, and whatever it is, 105, 110,000 people are going crazy. To see Georgia score on 6 of their next 8 possessions was incredibly impressive." That seems like somebody got the committee's attention. Boo continued, "I think there's a lot of really good football teams in the country right now, and Georgia is certainly one of them. But not only one of them, they are the team that we believe is the best in the country right now. Now, that's important for a couple of reasons, but I'm going to add just a little bit more onto it and tell you that in the video interview, Corrigan also said, if I recall correctly, and if I'm messing it up, a little grace right here, but I believe he said there is some separation right now between Georgia and everybody else based on what they've seen over the last 4 weeks, in the last 2 weeks in particular, when they made the move to put Georgia at 1. So listen, I expect Georgia to beat Georgia Tech. I expect Georgia to beat Alabama. I expect Georgia to be the number 1 seed when the final rankings come out. If that doesn't happen, maybe, just maybe, in spite of everybody's knee-jerk reactions, the committee is telling us that they still view Georgia as the best team in the country. How do you not put the best team in the country in any kind of playoff? Just food for thought. Not my words, the words of Boo Corrigan, the spokesman for the College Football Playoff Committee. So make of that what you will. Make of that what you will. Now, when I started this show tonight, I wanted to make sure that everyone knew and understood and had no doubt just exactly what this week is for me. I am thankful. Friends, here's some big news. I didn't actually point it out earlier, but I'll do that now. Your continued support for this channel blows me away every day. And yesterday, we passed a benchmark on the YouTube channel by passing over 5,000 subscribers. It took us 9 months to get there. Wildly more successful and more quickly than I thought we would get there. And that is thanks to you. It took 4 months to get from 0 to 1,000. And then it took 5 months to get from 1 to 5. So I am extremely grateful. But all that means is that the march to 10 is now underway. So every time you guys come in and hang out with me for a while and talk about the Bulldogs, every time you take a video and you share it with your friends, every time you do any of those things to support the channel, it helps us in that pursuit, and I appreciate it. And I just, again, in this week of Thanksgiving, want to tell you how thankful I am that you are all choosing to spend your time with me and choosing to support this channel. Because believe me, I know there are literally endless options for you to go find somebody to spend your Georgia Bulldog football fandom with, right? Everybody doesn't fit everybody's tastes. I totally get that. But just know that I appreciate you guys being here with me, and I will always do the very best I can to bring you the best, most responsible, most informative content I can bring you when it comes to our Georgia Bulldogs. So thank you for being here with me. And with that, I want to make sure that I do it right. I want to make sure that in bright lights, we put thank you up there so that you guys know exactly how much I appreciate you. Now, before You might have thought we were done. We're not quite done yet. And before we go, I want to take a second and sort of bounce around on the old interwebs here and let you know that even though I didn't spend a lot of time on it, there is still other stuff happening this week in the world of Georgia Bulldog football. One of the ones that makes me just feel, it just makes me feel good, man, because of the way the whole thing has played out. Coach Mike Bobo has been recognized this week as a semifinalist for the Broyles Award, which is the award that goes to the best assistant coach in college football. Now, if you were here with us back when we started this journey in February, all you heard, because the news was breaking right in that window, was people barking or sniping about the fact that Mike Bobo was going to be Georgia's new offensive coordinator. And I it's well documented how I feel, how I felt, what I said. And to see Mike here now and to see the success of the team at 11-0 with everything still in front of them, and to see an award, see his name up for an award like the Broyles Award, well, that's something that I know he has to find really special. And I know that I'm happy because it just puts the spotlight on the program in Athens and what they're doing and the kind of success that they're having. One of the other things that I didn't point out a little bit earlier was there's been a lot of talk this week about Tennessee and the stadium and the fans and how loud it is and all that. Carson had a wonderful quote after the game, straight and to the point. They asked him about the atmosphere at Neyland, and he was like, well, I thought Auburn was louder. Now, I don't know if he was intentionally giving a little jab there to old Knoxville and Rocky Top, but he sure did. He sure did. He sure did. Now, friends, here's something that I want to point out too. Now, this is something that is pretty cool. Throughout the season, you can check these numbers. How is your team doing nationally, inside your conference, so on and so forth? When you look nationally, just look at where Georgia sits right now in all of the metrics that we're discussing. Currently, they sit at number 5 in scoring defense. And if you scroll right on through to the next number, there they sit at 9 in total defense. Balance. That is what makes this team great. It's not one superstar. It's not one unit. It's the entirety of the team that makes them what they are. When you look at the offensive side of the ball, total offense, we were talking about Mike Bobo, number 4 in the country in total offense. Number 4. It's a top 5 unit that's had missing pieces in and out all season. Scoring offense, same thing. Top 5. It's not one player. It's not one unit. This Georgia Bulldogs team is a team in every sense of the word, and that is why they are successful. If you turn your eyes to the future, notice that 5-star linebacker commit Justin Williams has been recognized as a finalist for the high school Butkus Award this year. That's a tremendous honor. And the future of Georgia, especially on that defensive side of the ball, is very, very bright. Very, very bright indeed. Which brings me to where we're headed. Now, tomorrow is Thanksgiving, so we're having to do things a little bit different this week. I appreciate you guys taking time on a holiday week to come and sit in with me. But unlike most weeks, that SEC Powers Hour will not be on Thursday this week. No, we're going to be too drunk on turkey and watching the Egg Bowl. No, I want you to spend time with your family and friends. Nope, we're going to do double duty tonight. Show's going to join me at 9 p.m., and we're going to come back in here and give you a full hour of that SEC Powers Hour where we pick all the games and have a good time doing it. To kick off your holiday college football weekend with a bang. That is what we're going to be getting into here in just a little while. So, again, I want to thank you all for being here with me. I hope that you will join me this week when we pause in the quiet moments of tonight, tomorrow, when we're talking about the games with family and friends. Don't forget to truly appreciate what a wonderful football season this has been for our Georgia Bulldogs. It doesn't matter how the rest of it goes. This has been a wonderful season. And we've got a lot to look forward to the rest of the way. I know I can't wait to see it, and I know you can't either. So until next time, take care of yourselves, take care of your family, love one another, and go Dogs!
Told them, how about them fucking dogs? That's what I told them.